Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to talk to you today about how, and this is in the news, about how the U.S. hacked into North Korea's nuclear weapons program. The hack failed, but the U.S. was justified in doing that, and I'm going to explain as to why, okay? All right, first thing is that when President Obama was elected in 2008, he extended an open hand to North Koreans and offered to talk with them. Well, the North Koreans slapped the hand away, basically, and conducted another nuclear weapons test. And when North Korea conducts a lot of their nuclear weapons tests, they conducted on July 4th, America's Independence Day, or they conducted on May 25th, America's Memorial Day. And also, English is the mandatory foreign language for North Koreans to learn. It was Russian, but now it's English. And how they teach past, present, and future tenses of English is they teach we killed Americans, we are killing Americans, we will kill Americans. Very sick and disgusting, but unfortunately it happens. So, that is the kind of stuff that North Korea has been doing and has done to provoke the United States. Also in 1976, the United States and South Korea needed to cut a tree along the DMZ. It was on their side. They needed to cut it down for observation purposes. Well, what North Korea did is that they took 2 U.S. soldiers, drugged them to the North Korean side of the DMZ, and they killed them. They hacked and bludgeoned them to death with axes. It was very sick, psychopathic, and disgusting. And the 2 U.S. soldiers that sacrificed their lives on that day was Captain Arthur Boniface and First Lieutenant Mark Barrett. Very, very sick and disgusting. Okay, very sick and disgusting. Also, okay, now if you want to argue those nuclear weapons are for defensive purposes, you know, quite frankly, they're not. Okay, North Korea has a lot of artillery along the DMZ. This is according to Victor Cha's book, The Impossible State. And a lot of that artillery is laced with chemical and biological weapons that could do a lot of damage on the South Korean capital of Seoul. So that just doesn't compute that the nuclear weapons are there for defensive purposes. Okay? Also, okay. And this is according to Victor Cha's book, The Impossible State. Okay, the United States and South Korea would win a war against the North Koreans for many reasons. One reason I firmly believe is because they're on the right side of that war. But the thing is that it would cost many lives and cost a lot of money. The money's into the figures of $1 trillion. So the United States and South Korea would not risk going to war unless it's absolutely necessary. So the United States would not hack something like that unless it's absolutely necessary. Also, in the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan made it possible for the U.S. and North Korea to communicate with each other directly via telephone at both of their embassies in Beijing, China. And before then, both countries didn't recognize each other. So that was a major step started by the United States. Plus, President Clinton in 1994 gave North Korea LWRs, light water reactors, so they could have electricity. Well, North Korea didn't use it for electricity. They used it for nuclear weapons purposes. So the U.S. as well as South Korea and Japan tried to purchase the light water reactors. And then when President Bush 43 became president, he offered to give North Korea conventional electricity so North Korea could have electricity. But North Korea said no, they wanted the light water reactors. Okay, light water reactors take 5 to 10 years to develop electricity. And conventional electricity, you can have electricity at the snap of my fingers. So the United States was justified in doing what they were doing. They were trying to protect themselves, okay? And then also in the 1960s, the DMZ was just separated by a thing of tape. What a lot of North Korean soldiers would do was move the tape to their advantage to try to frame the U.S. and the South Korean soldiers, excuse me, lack of focus right there, but to try to frame the South Korean and the U.S. soldiers into thinking they were on North Korea's side, and the North Korea would shoot at the U.S. and South Korean soldiers. Many U.S. soldiers who were stationed in South Korea in the 1960s testified to that. So, anyway, just a sad state of affairs, but the U.S. was justified in doing what they were doing. It was for defensive purposes. North Korea was the aggressor, not the United States, and those nuclear weapons are not used for defensive purposes. Okay, also, during the Korean War, Many South Koreans had no idea what communism was. They just saw distributed food by the government. That's all they knew, and they were so hungry. And then plus they were so isolated between 1910 and 1945 when Japan occupied Korea, when they occupied them. So initially when North Korea came down to Seoul and they occupied Seoul for 3 months during the Korean War, South Koreans were happy and they welcomed them. But when shortly after North Korea came, that attitude changed, and changed very quickly, because they massacred at least 25 South Koreans in a matter of 3 months. And one hospital that they massacred one hospital. North Korea massacred one hospital filled with wounded South Korean soldiers, doctors, and nurses. That shows you North Korea's intentions right there. Also, when food aid comes to North Korea through the UN or through other organizations, North Korea bans the Korean-speaking aid workers, simply because they don't want other people to know where the food is going to. It's not going to the starving people. It's going to the party's elite. So anyways, hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless, and bye-bye. Bye-bye. God bless America, and God bless South Korea. Bye-bye.